As we grow older, many of us begin to notice that our ears are not quite as sharp as they once were. We lean closer to hear what the grandchildren are saying, or we turn the television up louder than before. Most people simply assume this is a natural part of aging, no different from graying hair or wrinkled skin, and nothing to worry about. But the truth is very different. Hearing loss is not just about struggling to catch words. It is closely tied to the health of the brain. Large studies have shown that older adults with untreated hearing loss face a 30 to 40% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia. In other words, when we ignore our ears, we are also neglecting the memory and clarity of mind that are so precious in later life. What troubles me most is how widespread this issue is. Too many people think hearing aids are inconvenient, or they avoid getting their ears checked because they believe it is not yet necessary. That hesitation, however, forces the brain to work harder, speeds up memory decline, and raises the risk of dementia year after year. In today's video, we will explore why hearing loss has such a profound impact on the brain, the hidden consequences of leaving it untreated, and most importantly, the simple steps each of us can take to protect both our hearing and our memory. Before we dive in, if you find this topic helpful, please give this video a like, share it so more people can benefit, and don't forget to subscribe so you can continue this health journey with us. And I want to ask you, have you or someone in your family ever found yourselves turning the TV volume up higher or asking others to repeat themselves during conversations? Leave a comment below, because your story might serve as an important reminder for many others. When we think about hearing loss, most of us imagine it simply as the ears not picking up sound clearly. Voices seem quieter, words get muffled, or noises sound distorted. What many people don't realize is that the ears are really only the doorway. The actual work of making sense of sound happens in the brain. The ears collect the signals, but the brain is the command center that analyzes, decodes, and allows us to understand speech and the world around us. So what happens when the ears stop working well? The sounds that reach the brain arrive faint and unclear, like a blurry painting. To understand, the brain has to work much harder than usual. Picture this: instead of hearing a complete sentence, you only catch a few scattered words, and your brain has to fill in the blanks. This guessing game goes on all day, every day, forcing the brain to run at full speed, like an old computer trying to juggle too many heavy programs at once. When so much energy is spent just on listening, other functions suffer, especially memory and concentration. Instead of storing new information, the brain is busy piecing together broken sounds. The result is memory slipping more quickly and focus becoming harder to maintain. This explains why many older adults with hearing loss say they forget conversations right after they happen, or feel exhausted after social gatherings. Over time, this constant strain also puts pressure on brain regions tied to thinking and language. Brain scans have shown that older adults with untreated hearing loss often experience faster shrinkage in areas linked to memory and speech. It's the same principle as a muscle that weakens when it isn't used. The real concern is that many people still brush off hearing loss as just the ears, when in fact it signals that the brain is working overtime to keep up. And when the brain is forced to run in overdrive for too long, the consequences spread far beyond hearing. They touch memory, reasoning, and even personality. In short, hearing loss doesn't just steal sound. It quietly drains the brain's energy and sharpness. That's why thinking of it as an ear problem alone is a serious mistake. Once we understand that hearing loss is truly a brain issue, we can start taking it seriously, looking for early signs, and finding ways to address it. In the next part, we'll dive into the specific dangers of untreated hearing loss, from cognitive decline and depression to raising the risk of Alzheimer's by as much as 30 to 40%. If hearing loss were only about softer or muffled sounds, it might not seem so alarming, but the truth is, its effects run much deeper and spread silently across both the nervous system and emotional health. And when all of these factors add up, memory, clarity, and overall quality of life after 60 can be seriously threatened. Let's begin with the strain on the brain. When the ears no longer deliver clear signals, the brain has to work twice as hard to make sense of what's left. Instead of receiving complete sentences, it only gets fragments. Then it has to guess the missing words, patch the meaning together, and try to keep up. Every conversation, every daily sound turns into a puzzle to solve. This constant effort wears the brain out, draining the energy it would normally use to store new information or process details. By the end of the day, many older adults with hearing loss feel mentally exhausted, tense, and even discouraged from joining conversations. The next consequence is cognitive decline. Neurological studies have shown that untreated hearing loss speeds up shrinkage in certain brain areas, especially the temporal lobe, which is critical for language and memory. When these regions shrink faster than normal, the risk of dementia rises sharply. In other words, ignoring hearing loss is like pushing the brain into early aging. Then there's the impact on emotional well-being. Struggling to follow conversations makes social situations frustrating. Picture a family gathering. Laughter and chatter fill the room, but one person can't catch what's being said. They smile politely, nod along, but inside they feel left out. Over time, this turns into withdrawal. Less interaction means the brain gets less exercise. Connections weaken, and memory slips even faster. It's a vicious cycle. Hearing loss leads to isolation. Isolation weakens the brain, and memory continues to fade. Social isolation also opens the door to depression and anxiety. Seniors who can't hear well often feel ignored, misunderstood, or like a burden to others. These feelings linger, erode confidence, and take a toll on mood. And we know depression itself is a major risk factor for memory decline, accelerating the path toward dementia. There's another danger that people rarely connect with hearing loss: safety. Without full hearing, older adults may not notice warning sounds like an approaching car, a honking horn, or someone calling out. This makes falls and accidents more likely. And after 60, a fall can lead to fractures, long hospital stays, and lasting loss of independence. These physical setbacks only add more strain to the brain and body. The Centers for Disease Control has highlighted this. Clearly, older adults with untreated hearing loss have a 30 to 40% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's or other dementias compared with those who hear normally. That's not just a statistic. It represents millions of real people. To put it simply, if 10 seniors with hearing loss ignore treatment, 3 to 4 of them could develop dementia in the years ahead. All of these effects reinforce each other, creating a downward spiral. Hearing fades to the brain, strains harder to memory, weakens to social life, shrinks to depression, sets into dementia. Risk climbs. And once that spiral begins, it becomes very difficult to reverse. What troubles me most is the attitude of resignation. Too many people think, well, I'm old, so of course I can't hear. Others avoid hearing aids because they're embarrassed, but those choices only make the problem worse, especially now that modern hearing aids are smaller, smarter, and far more discreet than most realize. The bottom line is this: hearing loss doesn't just lower the volume of life. It sets off a chain reaction that touches the brain, memory, emotions, and even day-to-day safety. Recognizing these risks is the first step to moving past the idea that hearing loss is just part of aging, and treating it instead as a serious brain health issue that deserves our attention. In the next part, well, look at the early warning signs that people often ignore, so that if you or someone you love starts showing them, you'll know it's time to take action before the damage goes too far. One of the main reasons hearing loss gets brushed aside is because it creeps in so slowly and quietly. Most people don't notice it happening, or they simply get used to the changes over time. By the time family members or friends start pointing it out, the problem has often been around for years. So what are the early signs that usually appear, but get overlooked? The most obvious clue is turning up the TV or radio louder than everyone else. Prefers. Many families are familiar with this scene. An older loved one enjoys a favorite program, but the volume is far above normal. At first, they might explain it away with comments like, "The sound is weak today," or "This old TV doesn't work well anymore." But the real reason is usually declining hearing. If family members are constantly asking to turn the volume down, that's a clear red flag. Another common sign is difficulty hearing in noisy places. In settings like markets, restaurants, or family gatherings, those with hearing loss struggle to pick out voices from background noise. They miss parts of conversations, or simply nod and smile politely to cover up the fact that they couldn't catch what was said. When this happens often, people naturally begin to avoid group settings and withdraw socially. Frequent requests for repetition are another signal. Phrases like "what" or "say that again" become routine in daily conversation. Many older adults assume the problem lies with the other person speaking too softly or too quickly, when in fact it's their own hearing that has declined. These constant interruptions can frustrate both sides and gradually create emotional distance. Mishearing or misunderstanding is also very common. Instead of hearing an entire sentence clearly, only a few words make it through, and the brain fills in the blanks. This leads to incorrect responses that may make someone seem distracted or confused. In reality, their brain is working overtime to piece together incomplete sounds. For some, the problem extends to missing everyday sounds like the phone ringing, a knock at the door, or even a smoke alarm. These aren't just inconveniences. They can pose serious safety risks. Hearing loss limits not only communication, but also the ability to react quickly in emergencies. At first glance, these issues may seem minor, but they are the body's way of sounding an alarm. Too often, people dismiss them with, "It's just a little hearing loss, no big deal." But every time we ignore the signs, we place more strain on the brain, pushing it closer to fatigue and decline. The key is learning to listen to ourselves and observe our loved ones. If you notice you're turning up the TV more often, asking people to repeat themselves, or feeling drained after conversations, it's not just old age. Those are signals that your hearing needs to be checked. Catching the problem early is one of the most powerful steps you can take to protect both your memory and your mental sharpness in the years ahead. In the next part, we'll explore practical and realistic solutions to small, simple steps that can make a huge difference in preserving both your hearing and your brain health. The good news is that hearing loss is not a problem without answers. In fact, there are many simple, practical steps we can take starting today to protect our hearing, and in doing so, protect our brain and memory. The very first and most important step is to schedule regular hearing checkups after age 60. Hearing often fades so gradually that we hardly notice it, but with yearly exams, changes can be detected early. Just like checking blood pressure or blood sugar, testing hearing should become part of routine health care. When problems are found early, doctors can suggest appropriate solutions, ranging from small lifestyle adjustments to the use of hearing devices. That brings us to hearing aids. Many people hesitate to use them out of fear that others will notice, or because they think it makes them look old. But modern hearing aids are discreet, lightweight, and in some cases nearly invisible. They are best thought of as glasses for your ears tools that restore clarity, not signs of weakness. Using hearing aids at the right time not only improves communication, but also reduces the heavy strain on the brain, which in turn helps protect memory and focus. Equally important is staying socially engaged. When hearing declines, many people withdraw from conversations, but that isolation speeds up brain decline. Keeping up with friends, joining clubs, attending classes, or even making regular phone calls to loved ones all act like exercise for the brain. Social interaction keeps neural connections active and helps the mind stay sharp. There are also everyday habits that protect hearing. Avoid prolonged exposure to loud environments. Keep the volume on headphones or the television at a moderate level. and give your ears rest when they feel tired or ringing. These small choices, when added together, can slow down the progression of hearing loss. Finally, don't forget the role of overall health. Hearing depends on good blood circulation, stable blood pressure, and proper nutrition. A diet rich in leafy greens, fatty fish, nuts, and olive oil, the staples of a Mediterranean-style eating pattern, not only supports heart health, but also nourishes the delicate blood vessels in both the ears and the brain. Regular physical activity and adequate sleep provide the foundation for both hearing and cognitive health. The key message here is that we don't need complicated or expensive solutions. A routine hearing exam, the timely use of hearing aids, active social engagement, and protection from excessive noise are often enough. These simple steps can make a profound difference in reducing the risk of dementia. So instead of accepting hearing loss as an unavoidable part of aging, we can take charge. Protecting our ears is not just about hearing better, it's about preserving memory, maintaining clarity of thought, and ensuring quality of life well beyond 60. In the conclusion, bring all of this together with one central message. Never let silence slowly take away your memory and your mind. By now, it's clear that hearing loss is not simply about the ears growing weaker. It is, in fact, a silent threat to the brain. When left untreated, the consequences go far beyond difficulty hearing. They touch memory, emotions, and the mental clarity we value so much in later life. We've seen that at the root. Hearing loss becomes a burden on the brain. When the ears no longer deliver clear signals, the brain is forced to work overtime to fill in the gaps. And as a result, memory and focus decline more quickly. From there, the ripple effects spread neurological overload, social withdrawal, depression, and a 30 to 40% higher risk of Alzheimer's when no intervention is made. These are not abstract numbers. They represent the reality faced by millions of older adults. The warning signs are often subtle and easy to dismiss. Turning up the television louder than usual, struggling to follow conversations in noisy places, or asking people to repeat themselves again and again. Yet these seemingly harmless details are the brain's early cry for help. Recognizing them in time can make a tremendous difference in protecting memory. Most importantly, we already have practical tools within reach. Annual hearing checks after 60, using hearing aids when needed, staying socially active to keep the brain engaged, and protecting the ears from excessive noise are all straightforward steps. Add to that a healthy lifestyle with balanced nutrition, exercise, and good sleep, and you have a powerful foundation for both hearing and brain health. So do not let silence quietly steal your memory. Protecting your hearing is protecting your mind. Every small step counts toward preserving the clarity and quality of life you deserve. If you found today's information helpful, please hit like, share this video with others, and don't forget to subscribe so we can continue our health journeys together. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you, or someone close to you, noticed signs of hearing loss? And what steps have you taken to address it? Share your story in the comments. Your experience may be the very encouragement someone else needs.